Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're flying high here at 5 a.m. Every morning we do this. We study the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the heart of yoga philosophy. And the author of the book, the Bhagavatam, says the best way to learn this book is you do it every day. Truthfully, it's the best way to learn anything, isn't it? But the really best way to get this yoga philosophy ingrained in your mind is you hear it on a regular basis. It's a bit, truth is a big pill to swallow.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you're biting that pill and it's very sweet, it's very sweet, it's very sweet. And then sometimes it's bitter. The truth is very bitter because it pushes against one of my attachments that I'm not ready to let go of. And so then I take truth and I say, I gotta put you on a shelf for a little while, truth, because I'm not quite sure you're the truth. I'm just gonna like nibble on. So what do you think about that, Mara?
It's a good analogy.
Right? Sometimes you're not ready to eat that whole giant glub jumping. Actually, truth is very sweet. My attachments are actually very bitter. And so it's not like truth isn't sweet. I just am attached to a bunch of things of this world that cause me a lot of pain. That's the crazy thing. I'm attached to the very things that are causing me pain. Kaustubha. We were talking about, before the show started, if you're new to the show, welcome. We were talking about how the magic of coincidences and how things like coincidences, they happen more and more and more on your spiritual path. They be almost uncanny things start to happen. And I was sharing one. I'm just going to share it again because I thought it was a good one.
All right.
But there's a bunch of people listening to us on Zoom that I'll never know who you are because you keep yourself secretive. Maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally. Mara gave me a funny look when I said that. No, they don't. You're just listening to a podcast, Raghunath. Stop taking it so personally. But whatever they are, if you're one of those others out there, you can always let us know your story by going to Apple Podcast and sharing your interesting story with all of us. We want to know how you got here. But otherwise, there's a massive group of people every morning. There's 95 people this morning, and we're listening to Zoom, and I see their faces. For most of the people, I see their faces. Some people are sort of like, no one sees my face at 5 a.m. So they put up a photo, a good photo of themselves. But anyway, one guy I haven't seen on lately. And I worry
You were
about
concerned.
him. I was concerned. I worry. I'm like a dad or an older brother or something.
A mother. You're like an
I'm like an elderly cowherd lady.
Yeah.
And so when one of the children is not there, I stopped and I said I kid you not. I stopped and I said a prayer for this person.
Okay.
That day, the person out of the blue, never text messages me, but he had my phone number. He sent me this text message, goes, I've been going through such a hard time. Is that crazy?
Connections.
Is that crazy Krishna coincidence or what?
Connections.
and then tell us your story. Tell that story. You just told the story. I'm going to ask you to tell it again.
So Bob Healy, another close friend and daily Zoomer. I was Eddie Stern on the show on Sunday. He quoted from the Taittiriya Upanishad, which, I mean, it's an important Upanishad, but it's something that I never read. I'm relatively unfamiliar with. I've heard from it and so on, but I don't really deal much with it. But I was, for our Instagram page, by the way, I encourage listeners to follow us on Instagram. But I was using that quote and making an image from it to post on Instagram. And at and it wasn't 1 second before, it wasn't 1 second after, as I was writing that quote from the Taittiriya Upanishad, typing it into Photoshop, I got a text from Bob saying, "Are you familiar with the Taittiriya Upanishad?" I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." And then I said, okay, that's a big coincidence, but it must be because he listened to that interview and is asking about it. But actually, he hadn't even listened to that interview yet, but just out of nowhere.
Research on the koshas.
Yeah, on the koshas. That's right.
I'm going to call that a Krishna miracle.
Okay.
If you got a Krishna miracle there on Zoom, you can write it in on the board today. Krishna miracles. Mary, you can field them. You can feel them. If you find a good Krishna miracle that someone writes in, one of the Zoomers writes in, you can stop us and you can interrupt.
Well, it's a little Krishna miracle for me.
What?
That I got a call from Ram Roy Prabhu.
Ram Roy, if you don't know him, he's one of the brahmacharis, the older monks.
Kind of heads up.
He's older because we've known him since he was a kid. But he's an older monk. And they do the kirtan at Union Square. They used to, like, every day.
Yeah, but with COVID, they pulled out.
Okay.
But he left a message for me, and he said that from that Bhajra Purnima, we were asking people if they'd like to gift a set of Bhagavatam. How many, Mara? How many sets do you think Wisdom of the Sages people gifted?
20.
Oh, Mara.
Oh, man.
Ye of little faith.
I thought that was pretty good.
Ye of little faith. 40.
Wow.
Yeah, 40. So, that I was like, wow, that's really good. Because it's a big thing, it's like it's a big set of books, $300 or so. So I thought that was really beautiful.
That is very impressive.
So I thank all the listeners. And actually, there's like one or two more that people still want to give. Like, we got to follow up with them, right? I'm going to call you, Mara. We'll figure that out today.
Okay, that sounds good.
Should we announce our secret surprise?
Well, but before we do that, let me just announce one more thing. So Ram Roy also mentioned that he is just coming up with a couple guys, and he's going to be doing kirtan in Union Square Park again until it gets cold. He doesn't think he can do it in the subways like they usually do when it gets cold because of COVID. But if anyone likes, and they're thinking this Saturday, it was kind of like, hey, let's have a big reunion out there in Union Square. So if you want to do some kirtan this Saturday, they'll be there all afternoon.
You want to hear something crazy?
Well, hold on. Let me just finish this announcement first. And so if people are in the New York area that want to do some kirtan this Saturday afternoon, I'm going to try to be there. And every Sunday, we're also doing, in Washington Square Park. So Saturday in Tompkins Square Park.
Oh, that's
Sunday in Washington Square Park with the Bhakti Center with Bradrani. So 2 opportunities there. Now, what's the crazy thing you have to say?
The crazy thing is Ram Roy. I got a crazy story about Ram Roy.
Okay.
I came back from India to New York. And for some reason, this was I was asked to do a reunion performance of my band at Irving Plaza.
I remember that day.
Right near Union Square.
I remember that day. I remember you flew in from India, and then you went and you woke up, you got in very late at night. You woke up very early. You stayed at my place, woke up very early in the morning, went out to Hoboken and did like a workshop, a yoga workshop, went somewhere else and did a workshop, went to Union Square and did kirtan, and then did your show that night.
Well, that was a thing. That was a thing.
Just spoil your story?
You sort of ruined my story here.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, the idea was I played a show. I had this whole pilgrimage in India, stayed at Kaustubha's house, and I was like, why did I book a hardcore show right after my ecstatic India trip? Like I'm in another level, and I went to I had to go to sound check or something, and I'm walking through Union Square, and there's that kirtan. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I needed for re-entry. And they said, Raghunath, would you like to sing? And I sat down there before the show and just sang at Tompkins Square, at Union Square. And it was such a good re-entry into the New York City and to my regular life here.
Well,
That's my story. That was my magical story.
Well, no, I'll say this though. That day you impressed me. I was like, usually you fly in from India, it's like a 14, 16-hour flight or something like that. And you're like, let me take a couple days to adjust to the jet lag and like get over the whole thing. And you just jumped right into it like on a
Mara knows.
high level occasion.
Mara knows I'm some type of animal beast machine.
You're like a bowling ball. You just like, nothing can stop you, Raghunath. It's like impressive. And I mean that in the highest sense. You're like a transcendental bowling ball.
You're kind. Now, shall we break our secret?
Yeah, break it out.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We are having a one-day Wisdom of the Sages retreat at Super Soul Farm. One-day Wisdom of the Sages retreat at Super Soul Farm. We got to get the Canadians coming. We got to jump that fence. We locked out the Canadians. It's on, what's the date, Mara?
Sunday, October 18th.
Oh, Mara's going to be there. Kaustubha's going to be there. I'm going to be there. And we are
Is Mara actually going to come? Or is she just going to like send the food?
I'll be there.
Okay.
We're all going to be, we're going to be here, and we're letting it out to all the Zoomers first. We only have a limited number of things. We're going to have yoga, and we're going to have kirtan, and we're going to have prasad, and we're going to have Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to have more Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to have sweet baby Krishna, and it's going to go on and on and on and on.
You sound excited.
And it's the most beautiful time of year to be upstate, because all the leaves will be magical colors.
Oh, okay. Well, how does someone like register for that or whatever?
We haven't figured that one out yet.
Okay.
But we're going to let you know via the Discord chat line, or we're going to make it
right to Wisdom of the Sages 108 or something.
We got to figure that out.
We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out.
Anyway, you sound excited. And then
very excited.
Then 2 weekends from now, you're at the Bhakti Center.
Yeah, the 19th, and that I think has like 2 spaces left. So if you want to go to that, contact
Dr.
the
Louis
Bhakti
coming.
Center. Dr. Louis coming.
Yeah.
Some other Zoomers, if you're coming to that, write that on the board too. And then I'm going to see a whole mess of Wisdom of the Sage people this weekend in Lake Placid. Thanks to Robin Shaver and Kelly Skinner and Sarah Oakley and Posse. Thank you very much.
All right. It's going to be great when the COVID thing lets up and we just can all get together. I mean, there's going to be so much.
It's never letting up. It's never letting up.
What kind of thing to say is that?
This is life from now on.
Come on.
Expect to always wear a mask. Never can hug anybody ever again. You always got to. Have you been like hitting people with your elbow? Hey man, I hate that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sick of this.
Sick of it. Okay, let's get into Bhagavatam then. That's the only.
Should we interview Craig from Sick of It All on the show?
If you think we should.
He's a very spiritual guy, and he came over yesterday.
Okay.
We had a deep conversation. Anyway, if you're one of the Christian core people up there, write it on the board. Craig, Sick of It All. Should we interview him? The guy's got an amazing career in the music scene. It's unbelievable what he's done. He joined Youth Today when he was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
Incredible story.
That you were the youth at that time.
Very connected guy. Anyway. All right. Let's do this, people. Here's we always, if you're new to the show, we start with these invocation mantras. Mm-hmm. Invocation mantras are there to give appreciation to the book and the author and God.
And the goddess.
And God, yeah.
And goddess.
And the goddess, Mother Saraswati.
Mm.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 12. Kaustubha ji.
Yeah. That's right, 12. Are you asking me? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just saying chapter
Okay.
12. Or text 12.
Text 12.
Okay. Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment, and being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. I love when they say that, approved by authorities.
It's like one of those political advertisements. And this
Is approved by Sukadeva Goswami.
That's right.
I'm Sukadeva Goswami, and I approve of this statement. But you're naked. I know, I'm Sukadeva Goswami.
It's approved by authorities.
It's approved by authorities. When I first heard that, because when I was new to Bhakti, Prabhupada would use that a lot. It's approved by all authorities. I'm thinking, like, what authorities? Because Prabhupada
Like a
speaks of
doctor?
authorities, but there are authorities. You can't say something. This is what's great about yoga. You can't just say things. They've got to be approved by authorities. You can't just say stuff. And who are the authorities, Mara? Let's see if Mara gets this. I caught her blowing her nose. Mara, who are the authorities in Vedic teachings? You used to know this. Let's see.
Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru.
Well, no, that's what I was looking for.
Well, that
Okay.
works, though.
I'll give you-
Give her some
yeah.
credit. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that. But who are the sadhus?
Yeah.
The acharyas of the lineage.
Yes, come on. You're so
names.
close.
We're looking for names.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Bhishma.
That's not a hint.
Arjuna, the Pandavas.
No. You used to know
Grandfather
this.
the
I've quizzed you on this before. Janak.
You're talking
Janak.
about
Oh,
the
the
Mahajanas.
Mahajan.
yeah, the Mahajans.
Yeah, the Mahajans. Name the Mahajans.
Okay, the four
Mahajans
Kumars.
are great people, huh?
The four Kumars.
Yeah, they count as one, I think.
Janak,
Janak.
Shiva.
Father. Lord Shiva.
Yamaraj,
Yamaraj. Oh, she's so good.
Yes.
Bhishma,
Bhishma, that's 5. Zoomers are all praying for you.
I know, I'm like checking the chat board to see if anybody's got anything for me.
Parmananda, where's Parmananda?
Krishna
Right.
Drew, come on, get up there. Aravind, I thought you'd be all over this by now. Who else we got? We have Bali Maharaj,
You got Bali March, you have
Prahlad,
the four
Prahlad.
Kumars.
I said the four Kumars.
Kapila.
Kapila, Narada. Boom.
Narada.
Oh, Narada.
Tamara, good. You're on this. Pretty good, Tamara.
Okay.
Manu.
All right, Manu. Yes, Manu.
Swayambhuva Manu. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to stop there.
That's good. Good enough.
That's
Pretty
pretty
good.
close.
You
We're
did
pretty
great.
good, and we can't correct you, so we're going to stop. Dhruva. Was Dhruva one? I'm not sure if Dhruva was
I
one.
don't think so.
Anyway, these are the authorities. This is authorized stuff we're reading here. We're not just guessing.
And you know, like in the Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna will also say, you know, Krishna, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, you're the this, you are the that, and all, you know, it's not just me saying this. You know, Devala said this, Asita said this, Narada, you know, Vyas says this, you know,
Right.
he quotes a whole list of authorities there too. So yeah, so here the authorities are being quoted. Why don't we read this verse again?
You know what's cool also, Kaustubha, before I read it, is that even when we have something like the Bhagavad Gita or the 10th canto or something, they speak of the great souls. Like they speak of the ancient world, even though it's the ancient world, they speak of a more ancient world. It's so cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
And you know, modern science is moving back again and again. The origins of civilized man. Have you noticed this? Have you dipped into scientific circles yesterday? origins of like the original sun or original humanoid or human. They're saying, well, actually, we're thinking it's much, much farther actually than it actually is now. All this stuff that Sadhaputta, Dr. Richard Thompson, used to say 30 years ago to us, singing in the ashram, they're starting to say it now. The human species has gone on for a very long time.
Okay.
Pushing back that date again, they do it every 10 years. Okay, continuing on. Transcendental knowledge in relationship with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the gunas, of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment and being transcendental. It is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted?
Who could fail to be attracted? Right.
Me.
But actually, you know, it was in the last, again, going back to the last chapter where it was mentioned that Lord Brahma, the most intelligent being in the universe, studied the Vedas, not once, not twice, 3 times, scrutinizingly, and came to the conclusion that the perfection of all dharma, right, the conclusion of all dharma, where all dharma is meant to lead, is that one develops rati, right, some attraction to Sri Krishna. Now here we hear about that rati again. Who could fail to be attracted, right? Who could fail to feel that connection? Again, it's like a magnet that's got rust on it. It's not snapping, right? But when you get that rust off, when you become free from the influence of the mode's material nature, then that attraction is there. It sticks. And so that natural, our very nature, which is to be out of love, you know, attracted to God, it snaps back into place.
You know what's interesting, Kaustubha ji? I use this example. Tell me if you like it. In a disease condition, like I say, like a drug addict, if you offer the drug addict something healthy, hey, let's go out for an organic, let's go out for some raw, fresh squeezed juices. Nancy Rothman is laughing immediately. Our 12-step recovery queen. But if you offer a drug addict, say, hey, I got some organic acai imported from Brazil. Would you like some with some fruit and granola? The person addicted would just
say, do you have any of that ayahuasca? What is that called?
Ayahuasca?
Do you have any of that ayahuasca from Brazil?
They are attracted to addictive things. They're not attracted to the very thing that will heal them, make them strong, give them nourishment. So it's easy to understand in a disease state, we're attracted to the things that cripple us. And in a healthy state, when we start to strip away those layers of kama, krodha, lobha, then all of a sudden we're just left with what we actually are, the jewel of the lotus. Underneath all those coverings and those attachments to, crazy things, sometimes very addictive things, and sometimes just things of this world or material hopes or material desires. When that starts to fade away, we're left just with the jewel, and the jewel is naturally attracted to all the stuff we're reading, all the stuff we're hearing about right now.
Snaps back into place.
Thank you for that cheerleading, Nancy Rothman. She's like, yeah, down with drugs. War on drugs.
Just say no.
Sean, you know who we forgot out of that list of Mahajans? Sukadeva Goswami.
Well,
Whoops.
That's
talking about. He is the authority that was.
I guess he was the original one we said. Okay. The son of Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Another Krishna miracle. I just said that name.
No, but hold it. Let's read the commentary here
Before
we get to that miracle.
All right.
Do we have to read the commentary? I had a miracle going on over here.
You trying to ruin my miracle? According to Bhagavad-Gita 10:9, the characteristics of pure devotees are wonderful. They really are wonderful.
What's the verse, Raghunath? Hit it.
10:9?
Yeah.
It's
nutshell. That's a nutshell. That's a nutshell.
I know. I'm trying to think of the first one. Not Tejam Satata. That's 10:10.
Mm-hmm.
Tushanti cha ramanti cha.
Yeah.
Give me the first word.
Much.
Machita makkata prana bodhayantas parasparam.
Katayantas chamam nitya.
Katayantas chamam bhaktya tushanchita ramanti cha.
Okay. Yeah.
I screwed up a word, I think, but
No, that's
always chanting my glories.
But the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell
Always
in me.
dwell in me.
Their lives are fully devoted to my service.
Read this verse. It's such a beautiful verse. This is Krishna speaking about you. about everybody listening right now. Listen to this. Krishna's going to say something about you right now. Listen to Kaustubha. What's he going to say?
He's going to say, Mara's got her geeked out. Look at her.
Krishna's speaking to you right now, Mara. Papa Tony is speaking right to you. Listen. It's
funny that you say that because, I've been doing my Makeover Monday, religiously, right?
Me too, sir.
All right. And I hope the others have too. So my Makeover Monday was I'm going to read a chapter of Bhagavad-Gita every day. And when I've been reading it, you know how they say, a lot of people say this, Gandhi said it, people say it all the time, that you can read the Bhagavad-Gita over, 1,000 times and it's going to speak more to you each time. It's going to speak differently to you, Isn't that true?
Mm-hmm.
30-something years we've been reading that Gita. When I've been reading it, it's just like, I just don't really know how to describe it, but more than ever, I feel like this is my friend speaking to me. I feel like I'm right there with Krishna Arjuna, and this is my friend. When we had Krishna Nandini on, a couple weeks ago, and she said that, and I asked her, what is a real friend? And she said, in Bhagavad Gita, it uses this word suhrit, that Krishna is a real intimate friend. And as I hear these words of the Bhagavad Gita, I almost feel like a flood of compassion and affection coming right from Krishna's mouth. It's just like, it's so sweet,
I don't understand.
What are you talking about?
Krishna's just a young boy.
Yeah.
He can't be a friend. He's like a little baby.
That's your Rasa, right?
Baby. What do you mean friend? He's just a little chubby baby.
He's not speaking philosophy. He's just crawling around.
Philosophy. He needs to be taken care of. Kaustubha.
You don't understand.
Okay,
so this is what he says.
Let's hear what Krishna says about the Zoomers here.
This is text 9. And the others, Raghunath. Please include the others.
Saying about the others too.
The thoughts of my pure devotees, both Zoomers and others, dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Right.
The thoughts of my pure devotees are always dwelling in me.
Much chitta, their minds are engaged in me. Madkata prana, their very prana, right? Their very life is devoted to me.
Why don't you read all 4 of those verses? There's 4 verses in the Gita that are considered the entire Gita in 4 verses.
Okay.
And sometimes on pilgrimage, people say, okay, you guys, if anybody wants to do something extra, I can give them some extra sadhana. And the first thing I do is I have them memorize these 4 verses. Did you memorize these, Mara?
No.
She's working on it right now.
Sorry.
She's got her nose in that book.
It's okay. She's got a lot of knowledge.
Okay. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pavartate iti madva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source.
10-10.
10-8.
I'm sorry, 10-8.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise, who perfectly know this, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Okay?
We're doing
10-9. Much chitta, madgata prana, bodhiyanta parasparam, katiyantas chamam nityam, tushyanti cha, ramanti cha. Nice poetry there, right?
It's beautiful.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Now, text 10:10. Tesham satayuktanam bhajantam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upiyantite. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me.
How powerful is that verse?
Yeah, I give it.
Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love.
Yeah, this is the
the qualification.
Yeah,
you can't do right. If your endeavor to get to Krishna is by any other means, it's not going to work. But if you're devoted with love, then Krishna will reveal how to get there. There's a way to get there, but you can't see it. It's like a little maze, this material world. And there's a way to get out of the maze, and Krishna will give it to you through revelation.
It's the term here, satata yuktanam. So yukta, that's the root from which the word yoga comes from, or the English word yoke, to unite two things, right? And satata means always. So satata yuktanam, it means always connected, right? And this is, Krishna many times in the Gita uses terms like this, satata yuktanam and other ones, like always be connected, reconnect, and always stay connected. To those who are constantly connected, I'm going to connect myself by what I listen to, right? By how I engage myself. I'm going to stay always connected. He says to those, he gives the buddhi. You use the word like Buddha, the enlightened one, or the intelligence, the clear understanding. He says, dadami, I give it. I give it to them. To those with priti, right? With love. They have a little love, a little affection in the heart. Krishna gives it. Okay, and then followed up by 10:11 to complete the 4 verses. Tesham eva nukam partam aham agyanajam tamaha nashayam yamabhavashto jnana dipena bhajvata. The deepa. Talk about
another beautiful one.
Yeah. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge, the deepa, the darkness born of ignorance.
Boom.
There you go.
That's the whole Gita in 4 verses.
The whole Gita in 4 verses. Okay.
All right. Back to the purport, Prabhu. Thank you for that dip.
You're welcome. Thank
Dip
you.
in the cool nectarian. All right, where are we here?
We're at, just start the purport again.
All right. According to the Gita 10.9, the characteristics of pure devotees are wonderful. The complete functional activities of a pure devotee are always engaged in the service of the Lord, and thus pure devotees exchange feelings of ecstasy between themselves and relish transcendental bliss.
Okay.
This transcendental bliss is experienced even in the stage of sadhana avashta, or your regular sadhana, your regular devotional practice.
Yeah, in other words, even in the practice stage, not in the completion, not in the perfected stage, but even in the practicing stage, even before you're fully enlightened yogi, you start to experience this bliss.
I mean, we can say that here if you're new to the show. You might, if you feel some like camaraderie or some joy or some happiness within it, you're actually experiencing a taste of what it's like in that very evolved place, if properly undertaken under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, right? It's not random. We're just doing this randomly. We're hearing it from authorities, right? And in the mature stage, and truthfully, this is why you can make so much evolution quickly, because of the fact that you are hearing it from authorities. It's not just like Kaustubha's rambling this stuff off the top of his head because he's so clever and introspective. It's actually, he's clever and introspective, but applying it to the information coming down from authorities. Your cleverness and introspection does not go away. That stays there, but it's kept on track. Because let's face it, there's a lot of very clever and introspective people that go way off track, and they do some real crazy things in this world. True. Right? So we are guided by the masters who've already walked this path. They've already traversed. They're the Lewis and Clarks who've made it all the way to California. They know the route. They know where there's dangerous waters or where there's sinkholes. Sinkholes. I love it. Sinkholes are so interesting, aren't they? When everything just sinks. They know where Lewis and Clark know where the sinkholes are. They know where.
Sounds like you're about to go down a sinkhole right now. Let's talk about sinkholes.
I've been studying up on sinkholes lately. They're quite fascinating. Anyway, like houses just disappear. But anyway, the idea is that the authorities, they lead us and they keep us on track. And then your cleverness, your intelligence, your charisma, that comes into play then. Otherwise, there's so many people who are just clever, charming, and intelligent, and they just create their own little cult of personality. And in the biggest picture, who cares? Who cares? You know what I mean? Where is that going to get me? Where's that going to get me? Where's that going to get my followers? Big deal. This is a path, how to get out of the material world. That's what yogis are interested in. That's the purpose of yoga. All right. I haven't said that one in a while, Mara. Who cares?
Got a new one today. Let the magic continue.
Let the magic continue. And in the mature stage of the developed transcendental feeling culminates in realization of the particular relationship with the Lord by which a living entity is originally constituted.
For Raghunath, that would be elderly gopi.
Say again?
For you, that would be an elderly gopi.
Acha.
Likely, most likely, I think.
Most likely. That's what we're banking on. Okay. Up to the relationship of conjugal love with the Lord, which is estimated to be the highest transcendental bliss. Thus, Bhakti Yoga, being the only means of God realization, is called Kaivalya.
So the word Kaivalya was used in this verse.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada's referring to that here.
So now he's going to quote from Jiva Goswami, who is an incredibly scholarly devotee that was considered one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, one of the chief disciples of Lord Chaitanya, a great author, one of our authorities in our lineage. So Jiva Goswami quotes the Vedic version. Eko Narayano Deva Paravaranam Parama Asta Kaivalya Samgitaha. In this connection, and establishes Narayan, the personality of Godhead, is known as Kaivalya, and the means which enables one to approach the Lord is called the Kaivalya Pantha, or the only means of attainment of Godhead. This Kaivalya Pantha begins from Shravana, or hearing those topics that relate to the personality of Godhead. And the natural consequence of hearing, such as Harikatha, is attainment of the transcendental knowledge, which causes detachment from the mundane topics for which a devotee has no taste at all. So the
Yes.
Damodar Swami used to tell me this too. It was really funny. I was sitting him in a he said, the way to get rid of people who are bothering you is
talking about.
Yeah, you say, hey, why don't you come in? You know, sometimes people come in and they just start talking, you're trying to get something done. So when they come in, you invite them in wholeheartedly and say, hey, let's read from the 10th canto together. Let's read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita again. And people who actually just want to talk nonsense, they have no attraction for hearing. And they'll immediately go, oh, I got to go. So it's true. In that pure state, all we do is we want to hear transcendental topics. In that impure state, and the hearing of those transcendental topics attracts us more to those transcendental topics. And simultaneously,
Fibonacci spiral.
It's a Fibonacci spiral, and it lets us let go of those things we're grossly attached to that are causing various sinkholes in our life.
I like how you brought that back.
I'm trying to bring it full circle here.
Okay.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga being okay. This Kaivalya Pantha begins with hearing. Okay. For a devotee, all mundane activities, social, political, they all become unattractive. And in the mature state, such a devotee becomes uninterested even in his own body. What? Isn't that interesting? It also the social and political. That's interesting because we're also social and political right now. But for a devotee, all mundane activities, social and political, become unattractive. And in the mature state, such a devotee becomes uninterested even in his own body, and what to speak of bodily relatives. This is a cult. In such a state of affairs, one is not agitated by the waves of the material modes.
The Prabhupada, he's making a point here. He's saying that Kaivalya, you're completely unmoved by the modes of material nature. You've transcended this material world. Your consciousness has now become otherworldly, right?
Isn't that spiritual bypassing,
Well,
Kaustubha?
now we have to read the whole commentary. Slow down. Put a leash on this guy over here. Slow down. So he's giving one side of the picture now. This Kaivalya. The word Kaivalya, it's generally used by the spiritualists who are not so connected with the personal form of God, right? Especially
Impersonalists love that word, Kaivalya.
Yeah, well, actually, it's in the last verse of the Yoga Sutras that it says that ultimate liberation is when the gunas, devoid of any purpose for the purusha, for the soul, return to their original latent state. In other words, when the power of consciousness is situated in its own essential nature. Right, so that's called Kaivalya, the modes material nature. It no longer have any effect on me. I'm otherworldly now. I've left it all behind. In the commentary to this, with Edwin Bryant's commentary, where he's quoting from Vyasa and these other great commentators, he says Kaivalya literally means the state of Kevala, or aloneness, onlyness, one's ownness, not connected with anything elseness. In other words, Purusha, the soul's awareness, is now absorbed exclusively in its own nature as Purusha and completely uncoupled from even the highest and finest states of pure Chitta or Buddhi. In other words, you're completely released. And so in that state, what do the politics of this world, how are you in any way attracted to it? What, even the social issues of this world, it becomes meaningless. That's all a temporary shifting of material ingredients, and that's what goes on forever. It goes up, it goes down, and you see from that platform. Now, if you speak on this, and this commonly happens, I see like a lot of the questions on our questions and answers day that we have on Saturday, and a lot of times they have to do with struggling to understand, on one hand, well, isn't that heartless? If we actually see the world, you're saying this is the truth, right? That my relationships, are temporary and they separate forever, and these bodies are temporary, and all the social and political issues that are going on are just waves that come and go, and we need to learn to be detached. Isn't that heartless? Shouldn't we be concerned with these things?
Are we becoming like robots? Is this teaching us to be robots?
And then it swings the other way. And well, let's continue to read like how Prabhupada is going to tie this together in this commentary. I find it very interesting, actually. Keep going. Continue on.
Right. There are different modes of material natures and all mundane functions in which a common man is very much interested, or in which he takes part, become unattractive for a devotee. This state of affairs is described herein as pratinivritta gunormi, and it is possible by atma prasad, or complete self-satisfaction without any material connection.
So both those terms were used in this verse. It means completely withdrawn from the waves and the whirlpools of the material modes, because of atma prasada, self-satisfaction. My satisfaction is not coming from anything external, but from the internal.
And if you're new to this is what purports do. They take apart, they sort of dissect the verse and go into it a little deeper.
Okay.
The first class devotee of the Lord attains this stage by devotional service. But despite his loftiness for the Lord's satisfaction, he may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into bhakti, or devotional service,
Okay,
even mundane interest.
Even mundane interest.
Okay. Just to give the, sorry, go on.
No, you please continue that sentence.
Okay, just to give the neophytes a chance to transform mundane interest into transcendental bliss.
Okay. So he says the first class devotee, this person who's attained Kaivalya, right? Who's liberated now, free from, the influence of the material energy. And it would seem free from attraction to anything going on in the material realm. It says, despite his loftiness, despite that high level of spiritual realization, for the Lord's satisfaction, that person may play the voluntary role. Here he's saying of a preacher. In other words, helping people understand this. And then it says, and to dovetail all into devotional service, even mundane interest. And by here, mundane, understand that to mean like of this world, right? It means of this world. So he it's saying that he can dovetail it, he can join it, he can join the material, and the dovetail is like a carpentry term, right? Where you bring two kind of joints together.
Right.
So that you can take the material and you can join it with the spiritual and spiritualize it. My social interest can be connected with my spiritual realization, and it can actually be a way of elevating people to that higher stage of understanding. So let's continue. I really love the way Prabhupada phrases things as this continues here.
It's the last couple sentences.
Yeah.
Srila Rupa Goswami has described this action of a pure devotee as near Banda Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate.
It's a very important verse.
Even mundane activities dovetailed with service to the Lord are also calculated to be transcendental or approved Kaivalya affairs.
Yeah. So this is a verse by Rupa Goswami, who is the uncle of Jiva Goswami, and also one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, the very prominent disciples of Sri Chaitanya, who wrote very important books which cover, really present bhakti in a very clear and thorough way. So here it's saying that it's quoting this verse that's often quoted of his, near Banda, disconnected, that which is disconnected from the spiritual. Krishna Sambandhe, when connected to Krishna, when connected to God. Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate, this kind of vairagya, this kind of detachment is Yukta Vairagya, the detachment of joining these two, of dovetailing these two, right? This is a special kind of detachment. Generally, when we think of detachment, we think, I don't have any interest in anything worldly and I'll have nothing to do with it. I'm going to wander off to the forest naked. Now here we have the naked sage, Shukadev Goswami, right? And he's saying that when you're talking about Krishna, you reach Kaivalya, you become free from the waves and the whirlpools of the material modes. Who could fail to be attracted? And Prabhupada's saying that we can achieve that stage by, and this is what this verse says, it says by Hari Katasu, by the transcendental topics of the Lord. Who could fail to be attracted, right? You achieve that Kaivalya stage, you feel attraction to God. And when you're there, that kind of Kaivalya, you don't necessarily remove yourself from material affairs. You can connect them. You can take social issues and connect it to a spiritual realization and serve in that way rather than just walk away from it all. And he says, and by doing so, how did he say it again? He may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into devotional service, even mundane interest, even the interests of this world, just to give the neophytes, the beginners, a chance to transform mundane interests into transcendental bliss. Right? It's a very, because I see so much tension on this point that on one hand, I see it amongst my own friends actually, right? Now that we're in the social media world, some people are just like, and they're both, it's funny because they're both quoting like the same, like they'll quote Prabhupada, right? They're both quoting the same person. But one person's quoting all the verses that say, because even sometimes Prabhupada would instruct a disciple, you need to just forget about the things of this world and focus on the spiritual and just let all that go, right?
So they'll quote Prabhupada saying that.
Yeah, and then someone else will come counter quote and say, well, here's Prabhupada saying that no one within 10 miles of his temple should ever go hungry, right? Like as if we should get involved in the things of this world, right? And so the point is that both there's truth in both, but that, and also that when this lofty, realized devotee engages in the activities of this world, they're making them transcendental through this dovetailing process, through connecting it with the spiritual. They're spiritualizing it and giving people the opportunity to understand spirituality through that. So, there's a thesis, right? Someone could come through with a thesis that an enlightened person recognizes the ever-shifting illusory nature of this world and also sees completeness of this world, even in the suffering, that even the suffering that goes on, it's meant to be, so just let it be, right? And thus they lose interest in all worldly affairs. And then the end. Yeah.
Go.
And then the
go,
antithesis of that, the antithesis of that thesis is that an enlightened person's natural condition is soft-heartedness, and therefore they're called from within to relieve the sufferings of others, even on a worldly level. And what Prabhupada's saying here is there's a synthesis. It's not that you have to go one way, all the way to one way or the other, but that an enlightened person is empowered to act on the worldly level with otherworldly awareness, otherworldly consciousness, and they can transform the mundane into spiritual as like a complete form of philanthropy, as a philanthropy that's not neglecting the spiritual. That's not just like saving the person's clothes and letting them drown. It's not superficial, but it's actually with a complete spiritual understanding. All right.
I feel like you really, we don't really have much time. Matter of fact, we got to end it. Anyway,
We can start there tomorrow if we want. We can pick up.
You talked about next level Maya. This is what next level Maya is. After you get into this, you're getting involved in this, and then Maya comes and says, oh, you're so smart, you're so learned, you believe like this. And then some other person will come in the same spiritual way, and they'll start debating you, and then you start making offenses again. Maya's always trying to kick us right out the door. Always got to remain humble in a mood of love and service and respect and dignity.
Here you go. None of the snarkiness.
None of those snarkiness. That's not going to work. That's not going to work on the spiritual path. Nowhere did Krishna say, be snarky. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. What a great day it's going to be today. I can feel it already. There's going to be a lot of magic in the air.
Let the magic continue. What was it?
Let that magic continue. Remember, we're going to Wisdom of the Sages retreat on September 19th. We're going to...
No, October 18th.
October 18th.
Oh, sorry. Bhakti Center, September 19th?
September 19th is the Bhakti Center. Thank you. October. Say it, Mara. Say
October
it.
18th.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm doing a Sweet Baby Krishna reading at 8 o'clock. We're going to wind down our busy day today, hearing some sweet baby Krishna stories. So if you're a Patreon member, you can check that out. If you're not a Patreon member, you can support us if you like what we're doing. We appreciate it, and it's very, very needed. So that's patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. And that gets you into our little Patreon party, our yoga school. We have classes regularly and workshops going on, including Kaustubha gives so many talks, and I do my Sweet Baby Krishna readings. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Jai Shri Krishna Balaji!